Chaf Beis 22. So we learned, how did Rabbi Yehuda learn that all other prohibitions that are prohibited to eat are also prohibited to benefit from? He learned it out from the din of treifa, where it says, treifa lo sochelu, but la kelev tashlichun oso. You should throw it to the dog. Oso ata mashlech kelev, v'iyata mashlech kelev kol isur shebetorah. It's only by treifa that you're allowed to give it to the dog. And because the Midrashim say the dogs were quiet by Yetzias Mitzrayim, lo yichratz kelev l'shonot, so they get a reward. And the treifa is on a higher level than the vela, because the nevela is tameh. A treifa, for example, you shecht it normally, you find that it has a hole in the lung. So you can't eat it, it's a treifa, but it's not tameh. A nevela, you shoot in the lung, you kill it through shooting, and it's not only can you not eat it, but it conveys tumma. So the kelev was given something on a higher level. So it teaches me that it's by treifa, but all other isurim shebetorah, you're not allowed to benefit. Now, Rav Meir doesn't need oso. He learned it from when it says lo yeyachel, where Rav Avo was learning Rav Meir that it's learned out from the Vela. Where, because by Nevela it says lager asher, give it to a ger or sell it to a goy. So Rav Meir learned it from the Nevela. So what does he do with this oso atam mashlich? What drasha does he learn? Rav Meir also atam mashlich lekelev v'iatam mashlich lekelev chulin shenishchu tu bazara. That a treifa meat you can give to a kelev. But for example, let's say you brought unconsecrated meat to the Beis HaMikdash and you shechted it there, so that is aser be'achila and aser bana. You can't give it to a dog. The idich. So what does Rav Yehuda do with that? Because how does he learn that drasha? Because he uses oso to teach me all of the isurim shebetorah. He says chulin shenishchu b'tuazor lav daraisa. There's no. It's all rabbinic. Not having hanoah from chulin shenishchu b'tuazor is not a daraisa dikadin. Mostly Rav Yitzchak Nafcha. So Rav Yitzchak Nafcha asked a kasha, and we're going to ask a number of kashas. This is a famous sugya. Right when Yaakov Avinu was struck by the Saro Shalesa in the back of his leg, so the sciatic nerve becomes prohibited to eat. Now, according to Rav Avo, whenever it says any kind of prohibited achila, it's mashma israno as well. How come then it says usnan sholech adam yorech lenachri? A Jew can send as a gift a complete thigh that has the gira nosha besocho as a gift to a non-Jew. We're not concerned that the non-Jew is going to turn around and sell it to a Jew, because even if he does, if you removed it, it's seen that it was removed, and if it's not removed, you can see it. So, but the fact that you can send it to a Gentile means you can have no. This goes against Rav Avo's principle that whenever it says lo sochlu, you may not have a no. So, and for the Gemara, for Rav Avo, Ksav Rav Avo, Kishahutra Nevela, he, the Chelba, the Gida, Hutra. So we said that you're allowed to have a noah from a nevela. So, and not only that, you're allowed to have nevela from chaylev. Normally, chaylev is prohibited of an animal. But once nevela was permitted to have anah, you're permitted all parts of the animal, the chaylev, the gid, and everything. Hutra. And therefore, there's a special din by gid anosha that you're
even though it's discernible. Yeah.
That means in those cases you can send it to a goy, because once the nevela was hutter, the gid was hutter as well.
Even though it's discernible.
However,
it's not
the discernible part. The discernible or the not discernible part has to do with the fear that if you sell it give it to a goy, the goy is going to turn around and give it to a Jew will eat it. So the Gemara says you don't have to worry about that because come on nicker, you know where it is. The Jews know where it is, so the Jew is not going to fall into the trap of eating it. But the problem is,
but the chelba v'gida is what happens when you take it off. Is it discernible or not from the regular stuff?
The gid is.
But the chelba?
The gid. No, the din is by chelba only, is by nevela. You're allowed to benefit from that. That's
according to Mandi Omer that says chelba, that said.
Forget about giving it to a boy. Chaylev, the chaylev of nevela you can use to make soap. You can have anah from it. Forget about the issue of giving it as a gift, the whole thigh. That was a problem with makomo nicker. It's not the same issue with chaylev. We're talking about the chaylev of a nevela is permitted to have hana from. Because once it says la gera that you can give nevela to a ger or sell it to a goy, it's all parts of the nevela, even the prohibited parts. However, that's only a good answer. There is a debate in Chulin whether the gid anosha has taste or not, or whether it's considered eitz ba'alma. So if it's part of the basar and it has flavor and it was permitted, so then we have an answer. So there in Chulin, the mandomer who holds that gids don't have any flavor, and therefore if you cook a whole thigh in its gid, it doesn't prohibit because there's no flavor. You can't eat the gid, but the let's say if you remove the gid, there would be no prohibition because they ain't begin benois and tam. So then it's not part of the nevela basar. So then you don't have an answer by saying the chelba and the gida are permitted as well. So man shamas le domer ain't begin benois and tam. Who is the Tana that taught us Ein Begin Benois and Tam? Reb Shimon. The Tanya. Let's say you have a pig, non-kosher animal, and you eat a kazayas of a pig, but you eat the gid anosha. So Rabbi Yehuda Mechayev Shtayim. Rabbi Yehuda says that when you eat a kazayas of meat from a behemoth tmei, you get one malchus, and then if you get anosh, you get another malchus, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, gid didn't have tam, so it's like meat. Rab Shimon Poiter. Rab Shimon says that you don't get any aveira. It's not as if you ate basar of a behemoth tmei, and it's not that you ate. You can eat the gid all you want, but there's no gid benois and tam, so there's no malchus. And Rab Shimon Achanami de Asr Bana. And Rab Shimon clearly says that because it doesn't fall under the rubric of basar, it doesn't get permitted when the veil is permitted. And therefore the gid is Asr Bana, the Tanya. Gid anosha muter bana de Rabbi Yehuda. Because it falls under this din of when the vela is permitted, the gid is permitted as well. But Rabbi Shimon Oyser, Rabbi Shimon prohibits bahana because it's ein begin benoisim tam. So we have another kasha. Baredam, Rachmana Omar kol nefesh mikem lo yisoichal dam. Says don't eat blood. Now based on Rav Avo, he says whenever it says lo yisoichal, it means osir bano as well. Utna, we have a Mishnah. It says elu ve'elu misarvim ba'ama. The blood of the Beis Hamikdash that both of the dam achatas of the inside and the blood that was dumped on the mizbech hachitzon, which are the outside chatos, are poured on the yesod, and they run into the sewer, and they all the yoitzin l'nachal kidron. The blood emerged from to a river near Yerushalayim. V'nim korin leganonim lezevel. The gardeners would buy it to use as fertilizer because there's a lot of nitrogen in blood. There's nitrogen in all animal tissue, and they look. I guess we know now that nitrogen is very important for fertilizer. We fix nitrogen through the Haber process. Fritz Haber, a German scientist in the early 1900s,
And a
nitrogenous
And a Jew.
and a Jew. The nitrogenous things were needed to make weapons. And during World War, and yet they would ship in like fertilizer from South America, and there was a mineral that made it saltpeter, but it was very difficult to come by. So he was able to fix nitrogen from the atmosphere into ammonia, and that put the Germans very much ahead. And this process ended up leading, right now we have 7 billion people in the world. It was calculated by Malthus 200 years ago that the world would only be able to feed 3.5 to 4 billion people. One of the reasons why we're able to feed 7 billion people and not have famine in general is because of this ability to fix. 75% of our atmosphere is nitrogen, and they use atmospheric nitrogen under high temperature and high pressure. Normally, the reaction to make ammonia will not go, but Haber's contribution was to discover, using Le Chatelier's principle, where if you stressed a reaction either through temperature or pressure, you could drive a reaction one way or the other. So but by the way, Harold, he was not, I think he was like an anti-Semitic Jew. He was Jewish, but
Remember, he wasn't a practicing Jew, but the Nazis got rid of him anyway. It was whatever he did to help the Germans, they didn't appreciate, and they were upset.
But they helped him in World War.
Yeah.
But it was World War I that they helped him.
He helped them win the war. Yeah.
He helped them win the war. Now, Chaim Weizmann, if you remember,
yes,
he was a scientist who helped the British.
Yeah, the chemist.
It was making rubber.
I think so,
I think his thing was rubber, and that's why Lord Balfour gave, there was like a tit for tat.
Right.
In 1917, the Balfour Declaration was in response for the industrialists.
But I think Weizmann also had to do with ammunition also. Somehow he also had to do with ammunition. It wasn't just rubber.
Maybe acetone.
Something he did.
Something like that.
He did something like to do with
I think it was rubber because Malaysia, the rubber came from.
He did with ammunition also. You got to look it up. I think he did with ammunition. That's why he got Balfour. He helped them with the war.
Yeah,
well, the Germans never won the First World War. Why did they win the First World War?
No, but the nitrogen process by Haber helped them. They didn't
helped
have
them
to
during
worry
the war,
about,
but they never won the war. Come on.
They didn't win. They didn't win.
We just talked this. Okay, it's fine.
Fertilizer made the bomb for that guy that in Oklahoma. He bought fertilizer to use that bomb to blow up the building.
Yeah, Chaim Weizmann is the father of industrial fermentation. He developed the acetone, butanol, ethanol fermentation process, which produces acetone and butanol and ethanol through bacterial fermentation.
Right, and they needed that for
cordite.
For the
Navy,
cordite
explosive.
For the Navy, the battleships had to shoot the
World War I. Yeah,
right.
Okay, so very good.
And he has a beard like Walter. It says here.
So you see, the Gemara knows that the nitrogenous.
The problem is my brain is not like his. That's the problem. The beard
nitrogenous products in the blood was sold to the gardeners, lezevel u'moelanbo. So yet you could have anah from the dam. How could Rav Avo say that whenever it says lo soichlu, Isra anah is included? Here you have anah. Shiny dam the iskish lamayim. So again, dam is an exception because there's a hekesh to water. Dichsiv lo sochlenu, don't eat dam. Ala aretz tishbechenu kamayim. Ma mayim mutarim ba'no, av dam muter. So dam is muter ba'no as well. Ve'emo kamayim amisnaskim al gabi abizbeach. Why do you compare it to general water? Maybe it should be compared to water that is poured on the mizbeach nisuch hamayim, where that water is not permitted ba'no. Amravavo kemayim rov mayim. We're talking about the majority of water, which is not mayim of nesech. Afraid to Gemara midi rov mayim, because it doesn't say rov mayim, it means mayim. And since there's an example of mayim that is asr ba'no, you can't use the hekesh to say that dam is permitted. Elo amr Ravashi, kamayim anishpachim, v'lo kamayim anisachim. It's compared to water that is dumped and not water that is poured. So the aim kamayim anishpachim if they have a zara, which becomes prohibited as well. So Gemara says also nami nisuch ikri. That's not nishpach, that's nisuch. T'chsiv yeshtu yei nesichan in Hazinu, which talks about offering water in front of the avodah zarah. Okay, now Chizkiah disagrees with Rav Avo. He said that it's not everywhere where it says lo soichal. Does it mean iser hana? So the question is, why did the Gemara have to find a source for heter hana according to Chizkiah? According to Chizkiah, lo soichal just means you can't eat it. So the fact that it had to find a pasuk to say that it's mutter bana compared to mayim anishpachim is a kasha on Chizkiah. You see that when otherwise, without that pasuk, it would have been aser bana. So it's a kasha on Chizkiah, right? For Chizkiah, there was no purpose to compare dam l'mayim. So the Gemara says, Rav Chia Barava. It was needed for the din of Chia Barava. It's a different reason why they compared it to mayim. And we learned this during our survey of Tumah v'Tahara. We learned that dam kodshim is not machshir dry food to be makabel tumah. Shneimar lo yisochlenu, don't eat blood. Ala aretz tishbechenu kamoy. Dam shenishbech kamayim machshir. It's only water that you can willy-nilly pour on the ground. That if it moistens dry food, it's machshir. Dam she'enu nishbech kamayim. For example, dam kodshim, which you're not allowed to pour on the floor. You got to collect every drop in a kos. So such blood is eno machshir. So that's the reason, according to Chizkiah, it has nothing to do with Isra or not. It has to do with this din that mayim kodshim is not machshir. Okay, I'll ask you another kasha. Right, we're not allowed to tear the limb off of a live animal. Lo sochal nefesh ima basar. That's and it says lo sochal. So based on Rav Avo, the lo sochal should tell me I can't eat it and I can't have no. The Tanya Rav Nosson Omer, minayin shelo yoshit adam koisyan lenazir. You're not allowed to dangle a cup of wine in front of the nazir, or Avrim menachai livnei Noach. Right, one of the Sheva mitzvahs bnei Noach is not to eat Avrim menachai. So you can't dangle Avrim menachai in front of the ben Noach. Why? But says the Gemara, halaklavim shori. That seems to imply, though, that otherwise Aver Minachai is permitted to have, you can feed your dogs with Aver Minachai. So if it says, according to Rav Avo, Loi Soichal, normally means I can't eat it, and I can't have anah, So how come here by Evrim Achai, I'm allowed to have ano? And for the Gemara, Shani Evrim Achai, the Iskish L'dam. We go back to the Dam Heter, the Chsiv, Rak Chazak, Livilti Achol Adam, Ki Adam Hu Nefesh. So just like it says, Lo Sochal Nefesh Im Abasar. So this Nefesh connects it to Dam. So just like Dam is permitted to have ano, Evrim Achai is also permitted to have ano. Again, Ulechizkiya, again, according to Chizkiya, who said that when it says lo yisoichal doesn't necessarily mean Isra. What does he need the hekesh to dam? Wouldn't need any hekesh. This is the opposite. It's not Avram and Achai that's compared to dam. Dam is compared to Avram and Achai. But ma Avram and Achai osir avdam min Achai osir. That even blood drained from a live animal is prohibited like Avram and Achai. What kind? When you bloodlet an animal, and it's the spurting blood, the arterial blood, that would be considered the blood that the nefesh is yotzebo. Such blood would be usher like Avram and Achai. Okay. You have an ox that has gored 3 times. And at that point, Bezdin can adjudicate the shore to be killed through skila. Now, the moment Bezdin declares that a shore is a shore nisko, it's asr bachila. Don't eat its meat. It says you kill the shore through stoning. So I don't need to be told lo yachel es psaro. If you kill a shore any other way except through shchita, it's going to be a nevela. And already it says by nevela you can't eat it. Right? Any odeshi nevela, unevela sur bachila. So ma tamud loimer lo yachel. Why do I need to be told don't eat it? Magi lecha kasuv she'im shachto la'achar shenigmar dina osir. That if you shechted a shor niskol in a perfectly halachically perfect way, it's osir to eat because it's a shor niskol. However, eli ala bachila. So that's only prohibited to eat a shor niskol. How do I know that I can't have anoah? Anoah minayin Talmud lomar uval ashor naki. And it says the owner of the shore shall be clean. Anyways, that's the drasha. Of course, the kasha is going to be, why do I need to draw? According to Rav Avo, when it says lo yachel, there's already Isra no. I wouldn't need another pasuk to tell me. So that's kasha number 1. So first of all, my mashma. Where do you see that the word bala shor naki implies Isra no? Shimon ben Zoma Omer, like a person says, Yotza ploni noki minachas. A person was wiped clean of his assets. He doesn't have any benefit from any of his assets. So that's why Baal Ashor Naki means it's Osir Bana. So the Gemara spells out what I just said. Taima, the reason why it's Osir Bana is the cause of Baal Ashor Naki. The Ima lo yachel. If I would have only had lo yachel, Isra chila mashma, Isra no lo mashma, I wouldn't have known Isra no. This is a kasha on Rav Avo. So the end for the Gemara lo yachel, Isra chila vi Isra no mashma. Really, it's like Rav Avo. That lo yachel b'saro means don't eat it and don't have a no. So what's the bala shor naki? That's lanas orahuda also. To tell me that I can benefit from the hide. The hide of the animal I can benefit from. Why do I need it? It's true. Don't eat its meat. So maybe I can't have achilon, I can't have enough from its meat. Besoro in orolo. But maybe from its hide I can have enough. Kamash malon, it says lo yachel or balashor naki, I can benefit from the hide. Ulanech tanoid mafki leila haikro lidrosha achrina lechatzi koifer ulid mei bloodus. Now, there is a machlokes. There are mandomim who say that the Balashor Naki pasuk teaches me something else. Normally, if you have a short tam, an ox that is never gored, and it does damages. So the din is normally, technically, I should be putter, because this was, we never knew that this short gored. However, Chazal created chatzi nezek. We pay half damages. Now, if you have a shore that's a muad, it's gored 3 times and it kills somebody, so there you pay koifer. There's a financial fine to pay the value of the person, called koifer. Now, what if a tam animal kills a person? I might think that just like if it does damage, it pays chatzi nezek. So maybe if a tam kills, it pays chatzi koifer. The answer is no, because they learn from Baal Ashor Naki, he's Naki from chatzi koifer. And uludmei vlados. For example, a human being that strikes a pregnant woman and kills the child, so there's damages to pay. But if an ox gores a pregnant woman and the child is killed, you're potter to pay. You learn that out from Baal Ashor Naki. So according to the Mandomer who learned from Baal Ashor Naki, the din of P'tur from Chatzi Koifer and the P'tur of Dmei Vladois, Hana Asorim and Alu, where does that Mando Omar learn that you're allowed to benefit from the hide of a Shor Nisko? Nafkilu, he learns it from Espesaro, the extra S, right? Lo yachel, it could say lo yachel besaro. Don't eat its meat, right? So what's the S? The S is superfluous. Lo yachel es besaro, don't eat the meat, right? S, hatofel besaro. And Chazal Darshan, that which is subservient to the meat, which is which? The hide. Okay, so what is the Manda Omar that doesn't learn out, that learns out Baal Ashor Naki to teach me that you're allowed to benefit from the hide? What does he do with this drasha of S? The idich S loy dorish. He's not darshan esim. Kiditanya, like the following baraisa. Shimon am soini. Va'ami lo nechemi am soini. Hayadorish kol osim shabatoira. So it says, Breishis bar Lokim, Es HaShamayim ve'es ha'aretz. From the beginning of Breishis, Shimon Amsoini, because the Torah could have said Breishis bar Lokim, HaShamayim ve'ha'aretz. What's the Es HaShamayim ve'es ha'aretz? It's superfluous. So he darshan Es, whatever, to be marbeh such and such. He went ahead and darshaned every S from Breishis till Dvorim. Finally, normally an S is a ribui. Means Bereshis bara Elokim hashamayim va'aretz. It also means he created something else. Well, what is there besides heaven and earth? Well, we don't know, but we don't know what the drush is. But most drushes of S, it comes to include something. Well, if it says S, it could have said Hashem Elokecha Tira, fear God. What's the S Hashem Elokecha Tira? Fear somebody else besides God? So Rav Shimon Amsoni didn't have a drasha. Pirish. So he said, we can't darshan esim anymore. And what that means is the whole premise that his whole life he spent doing hundreds of drashas, all those esim that he learned before, he said, you know what? They're not true. Because if over here it doesn't work, then it can't work anywhere else. All these esim that you darshan before, what's going to be with all that? You spent your life works doing this. Just like Hashem rewarded me for darshaning, he's going to reward me for saying, you know what? I'm poirish from these drushes. I separate from these drushes. The drushes are not correct. And by having intellectual honesty and recognizing now, even though it's my life's work, I'll get the same schar. Rabbi Kiva v'Dorash, Rabbi Kiva resurrected Shimon Amsoini and all the drushes, because he said, "Es Hashem Elokecha tira l'rabbis talmidei chachamim." That who are you supposed to fear as well? Besides Hashem, talmidei chachamim. That's the S. That's the drush of the S. But you can see there was a Tana who didn't darshan the Esim. So that's this. The one who doesn't darshan the Esim is Armando Omar, who learns it from Balashor Naki. Okay. Hare Orla. Orla is the fruits of a fruit tree for the first 3 years. So you're not allowed to eat it. It's an Hare Orla Drachmona Omar Arelim Lo Yachel. Vitanya, it says Arelim Lo Yachel. Don't eat Orla. Eli Ele Yisrachila. Nine Shlo Yenami Menu. How do I know that you shouldn't have anah? Shlo Yitzbo. You shouldn't paint with it, with the dye of the fruit. The lo yadlit basaner. You shouldn't light a fire with it. Talmud loyma va'araltem orla so arelim lo yeyachel lerabos is kulam. That it includes these isser anos as well. Now again, we can see where the Gemara is going with this kasha. Rav Avo learns whenever it says lo yachel, it means Israchil and Isra no. So what does the Gemara have to give me a drasha to come up with Isra no? I should know Isra no from lo yachel. Kasha and Rav Avo. Right time because Rachman of Aratem also Areli. Halavach, if the Torah didn't write that, how they mean Israchil and Mashma, Isra no lo Mashma. We wouldn't have had Isra no. It's Kasha and Rav Avo. And for the Gemara, lo yachel mashra bein Israchila bein Israel. No, lo yachel means Israchila and Israel. So how come over here you needed a drush of araltem or loso areli? Shani osam dechsiv lachem, because it says shalosh shanim yelachem arelim lo yachel. So what's this lachem business? Lachem means for you. So shiny awesome dechsiv lachem. V'itzrich. And I needed this extra verb also because salkadech mean oil ksiv lachem. I would have thought that there's a special gzeres hakasuv by orla shalachem yiyeh. Yes, you can't eat it, but you could benefit from it. Kamash Malon, Varaltem, Arlosa, Arelim, there's this Serano as well. Even it says Lachem. Without the Lachem, I would have known it from Lo Yachel. Fine, says the Gemara, Lahash to the Ksivi Anech Kroi. So if I already have the Lachem Lamali, so then what's the Lachem for? The Kidditanya. For the following Barasa, Lachem, the Rabos is an Atu Rabin. Means if you set up a tree, even for public use, it would still be the din of Orla. And we'll learn the rest of this tomorrow. Okay, so again, tomorrow we'll learn at 7:30. Yeah, I think we should finish. We'll be able to learn at 7:30. Yes.
Ernie, happy anniversary, Ernie.
Yes.